Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today it's another solo episode, and if I'm honest with you, today I'm a bit tired. It's been quite busy the last couple of days. We've had the Easter weekend, and that always makes life a bit more busy. And other than that, there's a lot going on behind the scenes in my business because I'm creating some really cool stuff that I want to put out to you guys as soon as I can. Anyway, so that made me think, instead of trying to push through or anything, how about I'm going to create something about that? So the plan is to just have a bit of a conversation about exactly that, being tired. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way, so today I'm going to talk about how we can nourish ourselves when we're tired, overwhelmed, or running on empty. And I'm not going to talk about it in a perfect way, because when you're tired, you don't want it in a perfect way. It's not about doing everything right. It's just about what's realistic, what can feel grounding, and what's actually supportive to you. So if that's where you are today, this is for you. And first of all, let's just normalize being tired, because it is a normal thing. And it's one of those things that modern life is just heavy. There's constant input when you go out, shopping malls, everything. There's this constant input. There's loads of responsibilities. The emotional load is frequently quite heavy, the mental load, and especially for women, because often there's this expectation of others that you have to keep going. You have to keep showing up, you have to keep caring, you have to keep holding things together, and sometimes it's just too much, and then that will take a toll over time. So it's not just emotionally, it's also physically. A lot of women get too little sleep. Women need a good amount of sleep. Men do too, but right now I'm talking just for women. And many of us don't get it. I have a couple of friends who don't get more than 5 to 6 hours a night, which is just not okay, but that's what life requires of them at this point. Anyway, when you're in a state of constant stress and exhaustion, it means that your body's going to change doing things. Your digestion slows down because there's, when you're stressed and exhausted, there's no energy left for that. It also means that your blood sugar goes up and down. It just isn't stable. Your hormones can start to shift. And the other thing, and that really makes things harder, is that your nervous system is going to be more on a state of alert. And that then becomes kind of a vicious cycle, because all of that affects how you eat, how you absorb the nutrients, and just overall how you feel. So with food, when you're exhausted, things go different than they normally would do. So a lot of people end up skipping meals or grabbing something quick because you don't feel like cooking, too tiring. And some people even completely lose appetite, and other people go the other way, where they just grab the odd snack here and there, which is total processed food. So it's not really nourishing. It's more, it's filling your stomach, and that's about it. And none of that is failure or anything. It's literally what life brings us at times. And your body's definitely always working as well as it can. It's trying to cope. And then it becomes a challenge of how, when we nourish ourselves less, which is what processed foods do, then it becomes all even more difficult because, energy drops, moods become less good, sleep is frequently affected, and then it just becomes this cycle of where you try to do things, but it's just so hard. But there's a good thing about this, and traditional nutrition is actually incredibly supportive. And I'm not talking about some strict plan or anything, because I've seen plenty of those online. It's more of a basics, a foundation that you can actually do. And it's not about making things complex, because complexity makes things harder. It's about simplicity. So what we want is foods that are easy to digest, foods that are rich in nutrients, foods that are grounding, and also that feel really satisfying, because that brings a level of peace and calm to your system. And traditional foods are amazing for that. They really are. And I know that they're also a bit trendy right now, but that's not what I'm talking about. It's really about that they are very deeply nourishing and supportive for our human biology. So when you're tired, you don't want to have a lot of work for that. So it's about getting the good nutrients into you with minimum effort. So it's not about doing anything perfectly. It's more about what's the simplest way that you can make it work. Now, a couple of things is like, what I have is super simple. I have broth on the cooker all the time. And I replenish that sometimes when it goes quick, because I'm not the only one living here, but when it goes quick, we just add water, because you can have broth going for a couple of days. I do the perpetual broth thing because it's just so much easier. And what broth does is that it supports your gut. It really helps with your gut lining. It provides you with collagen. And also, weirdly enough, when I sit here with a mug, like I have one here right now, with a mug, it just gives me a calm feeling. You know, it's warm, it's nice, it just feels good. So it brings me some peace. Another thing that is fairly easy to do is some eggs. You know, you can fry them in butter, you can cook them, and with a bit of salt or some spices, whatever you want. It's easy. Like when I scramble them, I do some chives and some salt and pepper, and it's just tasty. And I can put that on a slice of sourdough bread with some butter, and it just feels good, because eggs are a superfood. They literally have so many nutrients in them, so that will help perk you up. A thing that's really good for your microbiome that I sometimes do in the evening, because it's just nice after dinner, and get a bit peckish, as we call it here, then a little bit of yogurt with honey. And that really is very good for your microbiome. And sometimes also add a little bit of cinnamon, because cinnamon really is one of those nourishing, grounding spices. And for dinners, slow cooker is my friend, because when I do slow cooked meat, like some lamb stew or some beef or some chicken, doesn't matter. And I make a pan full as well. Like what I do is I like to make food that's not just for one day but for two, and that doesn't mean I eat them both 2 days in a row. What I do is one portion is for today and the other portion goes into the freezer for another time. Saves a lot of hassle with cooking, and it just helps with the whole household. All of us have in the freezer a couple of things that we can just take out, put in the slow cooker, let it warm up, and then we have another meal. Sorry. And then what's really important is always take something fermented. And it doesn't have to be anything big. Like I have a bottle of milk kefir from the supermarket. It's a good quality one, and that makes it easier for me. I could make it myself, but that takes more effort, so I'd rather have the one from the supermarket sitting in my fridge that I can grab whenever I need it. I also have yogurt in my in my fridge, also comes from the supermarket, because it's organic, good quality, so there's nothing wrong with that. And then what's really important is always making sure you get enough minerals into your system. And really don't underestimate it, because salt has a lot of minerals in it when you have good quality sea salt. And what's also really good with that is having a little bit of warm water, sorry, with some of that salt in there. Because your whole body needs minerals to do all its work. Therefore, when you feel depleted, a bit of warm water with some salt in it can really be very good. And as I said earlier already while I was talking, it's not about perfection, because none of this is about perfection. What it is about is that you do something supportive for you. And small things can matter. Sometimes I'm living in a really beautiful area where there's woods. We have a nice area very close by where I can just stand against a tree or hug a tree. And that's also really grounding. So it's not only about food, it's about doing things that work for you. So very often people who feel overwhelmed, they have this thought of, well, when I can't do it properly, why would I even bother? Well, that's not how your body works. Your body works with little things. So every little bit matters. Sounds like Tesco here, but yeah, every little matters. So anything you do to nourish your body, to give your body some peace and your mind some peace, it will help you get into a better place. And it also creates slowly but carefully a habit of taking care of yourself better, because that's one of the things that frequently happens as well. When we have a lot on our plates, the first thing that goes is taking care of ourselves better. But in the airplane, they always tell you to put the oxygen mask first on yourself. And that's in real life the same. That is really important. And there's another part to it, is that nourishing yourself is not just a physical thing, there's an emotional side to it. So for many women, especially those who have been through stress, burnout, difficult relationships, there can be a disconnect with the body, which means that they ignore hunger signals, and some women even feel like they don't deserve to care for themselves. And that disconnect is, you know, rebuilding that doesn't happen overnight, and it's also something you have to be really aware of before you can even start rebuilding that. So it's a thing of being aware, and then from being aware, creating small but consistent things that you do for yourself. And that means sitting down to eat. Many of us eat on the go, but sitting down to eat is something that really shows that you care about yourself. And then it's about making something warm for yourself, a little bit of warm food. It doesn't have to be much, or just that mug of broth, that will do. And choosing something that supports you. And as I said, for me, it's sometimes just walking into the woods with a dog and hugging that tree to just relax there, because the bird sounds. That's one thing that I found really, really interesting. I read a while ago that in tribal communities of the past, the sounds of birds meant that things were safe, and that's still within our system. Because birds become quiet when there's a predator. So when you're out in the woods or out in nature somewhere, wherever that is, you hear the birds, that has a calming effect on our system, because that's how we learned these things over centuries of being in this world. And it's amazing that birds are so calming. And yeah, when I wake up to the birds here, it's always good. It always feels really nice. So food can be a way back to yourself. You know, it's something that's grounding, and traditional food tends to be slow, tends to be real, tends to be sensory. So it's this smell of simmering broth. I love it. I love the smell of broth. I love the smell of sourdough bread baking or a stew cooking, or, you know, there's also this richness of butter melting into either your vegetables or your bread. It's amazing. And those kind of experiences, when you can experience them in that present moment, when you're present, you know, with your slice of bread, that you see the warmth of it, and then the butter melting, that presence also gives a level of calm, because what you then do is that you find some peace in yourself. So it matters for you when you've been in survival mode, because the moment you then focus on that slice of bread and see that butter melting and really present with that, that takes you out of your head and more into that present moment where you find more calm. And, you know, it's not about doing everything, it's about creating little things. So you don't need a perfect meal plan, you don't need a long list of supplements or anything. You know, I don't expect any changes to happen to anybody overnight, because that's just not going to happen. But it's about some small things, like small habits that you can start creating. And then with those habits, you can, you know, attach habits to it. Like many of us, we have the habit of brushing our teeth every day. And for many of us, there's brushing the hair or the shower or these kind of things attached to that. For some of it, it's getting up out of our bed, and we have a whole routine of going to the bathroom, doing all the things we need to do until we get out and get dressed. Those are non-negotiables, because we literally do that all the time. That's become a habit. Now, if you've been listening to me and you're tired, I want to invite you to do something simple. Something like cook a couple of eggs for yourself, or add some butter to your meal, or just sit down and eat, or maybe even have a cup of broth if you have some broth available, or even, you know, some supermarkets, like here we have some supermarkets that have good quality broth. You can do that. They even have really good quality soups as well. And there's a specific brand that makes them quite natural here in the UK. So that can work as well. And that's enough. That just is enough for you to do. So I want to thank you for spending this time with me today, and I hope that this conversation felt a little bit like a pause or some permission to slow down or take care of yourself, or however it landed with you, and also in a way that it feels doable. And if this resonated with you and you'd like, to become a bit more present in my world, then I'd like to invite you to join my newsletter. There's a link in the description that you can click on. So hopefully I'll see you there. Then I send out a monthly newsletter at the moment with all sorts of tips and tricks and, a meditation and things like that. A blog post that I wrote that I liked. Anyway, if you feel the need to have a bit more space or talk things through, I also offer gifted coaching conversations, and you're welcome to reach out for one of those. I'm very happy to gift you one. Other than that, I want to tell you to really take good care of yourself. You're worth nourishing, even on tired days. Thanks for watching. Till next time.